close the gate. He's got it. I need your help here.
We've got Jesus here today.
Hi.
The man, Jesus. I can't believe it. Tom, like, you got the beard, you got the hair. What's it like being Jesus?
In the show or in real life?
Well, also you're walking around on the street and you got the look.
It's really odd. I was just getting on a plane back from Atlanta a few days ago, and the woman checking my bag was like, "Oh, Jesus," and she doesn't watch the show. And I was like, "Oh, wow, okay, even if you don't watch the show, like," so I have to ascertain, like, whenever anyone says that to me in the street, I'm like, do I just say, "Oh, yeah, like the Bible," or "Oh, yeah, like The Walking Dead," like, it's a whole new thing for me.
Now, what was the audition process like? Did you have to turn water into wine, or how did you become Jesus?
It was very quick, actually, for me. I was in England at the time. I live in LA, but I was there at the time, and I had the sides through the pages, and it was actually a special scene written completely outside of the show, fake character name, no indication of what the character would be. And the brief from my agent was, "Oh, this is a character on The Walking Dead," and I was like, "Oh, that seems pretty fun. I'd like to do The Walking Dead. That'd be cool." And I sent the tape off on a Wednesday and got cast on a Friday, and was on a plane on a Saturday. And that Friday night at like midnight in London, my agent was like, "Oh, we think it might be this guy from the comic books." And I was like, "Oh, wow, okay, that guy's kind of a big deal."
Yeah.
And it was just a bit of a whirlwind. I was on set in Atlanta the following week, and so I didn't really have time to catch up on the comic books or even the show at that point. So I just went by what was in the script in front of me and took the direction from Kari Skogland, who directed my first episode, and Scott Gimple, the showrunner. And yeah, I was actually on edge until the first episode aired about how it was going to go down with the fans, and then he seemed to go down really well, which was a big relief for me.
Yeah, Jesus is a huge character in the comics, and actually one of your first scenes is pretty crazy because you're there and Andrew Lincoln is naked in front of you. So,
yeah.
what was filming that like? And a lot of people wanted Rick and Michonne to get together for a while, and then Jesus shows up. Is this something just God wanted?
And it happens. Yeah, that was because I was so caught up in my first episode at that time, and everything was a bit crazy. And honestly, in that scene, which is so fun that's the end of the episode, and there was a fun thing to film actually. But at the same time, I was honestly more worried that Denai was going to poke me in the face with her sword. That I wasn't looking anywhere else apart from, because they jump out of bed and she grabs the sword and it's like this, and honestly that's all I was looking at that point, was trying not to be blinded by Denai's sword.
So that's important.
Yeah.
And you've worked with Andrew Lincoln before.
Yeah.
I imagine he was probably less naked.
Yeah, he was definitely, yeah.
So how did that go?
That was really fun seeing Andy again. We're from the same city in England, Bath, and we were in the same drama group, like after-school drama group. I mean, he's a few years older than me, so the only time I saw him there was when he came back and did a benefit when I was like 14. There's actually a photo of us in the local paper, which is kind of fun, which my mum dug out and sent to me. And then years after that, we did Wuthering Heights together, where he played my uncle. And then a few years later, we're on Walking Dead together. So it was a nice kind of reunion.
That's pretty awesome. Now, something you obviously want in a Lord and Savior is good fighting skills. Jesus has those. How'd you get those fighting skills, man?
I trained for I guess almost 3 months before we came back to shoot this season. And actually I had more time because I didn't come back until episode 5, which was great. So I had a ton of time to keep practicing. I hooked up with this great trainer in LA called Stephen Ho, who had trained Lenny for his stick fighting. And we did twice a week, and then I was also going to a boxing gym. It was really important for me to do that, first of all, because I want to be the guy doing it on the show.
Right.
Also, it's kind of handy for me to keep fit in my own personal life. But I knew that it was really, really important for the character. And I realized how passionate the fan base is and how much they care about the characters. So I really wanted to do everything that I could before I came back to make sure I honored the character.
So you have these great skills now.
Yeah, I'm just ninja master now.
Negan has this baseball bat. We got to ask, Jesus versus Negan, one-on-one, who's going to win?
Well, that happens in the comic books, and he gets around him. It was kind of interesting as well, because in the comic books, Jesus is a bigger guy than me.
Right.
He's actually quite tall. And so when Stephen and I were working on how I would operate, because Jeffrey's taller than me, obviously. So if that did happen in the show, what would we do and how would it work? And actually in the comic books, he's very much like ducking under the bat and coming in and he's
Right.
using his, even though he's taller, he's using his
It's kind of like
wiliness.
Mountain versus Viper.
Yeah, and I think that's, if it happened in the show, then it would very much be like that. He's very tactical and targeted with how he would fight someone. And so far in the show, you've only seen him against walkers, but I think he'd be very different against human beings.
Now, when Negan came to the show, obviously there was a big reveal of who he hit with the baseball bat. What was it like keeping that a secret?
It was a nightmare.
Really?
It was just a nightmare. Because you get asked all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not even worth joking about anything, or because people will just stare into your eyes and just go through lists of names. And I kind of had a bit of a get out clause, because I could say, which was true, that Jesus wasn't there, so Jesus doesn't know. and actually, Michael told me, he was like, "Oh, I might be," and I'm like, "I don't know," because me myself, I'm in the show. I didn't know until the show aired. And Mike was like, "Oh, I might not be," and I was like, "I don't know. You're probably just pulling my chain." I honestly, until the show started again, I didn't know for certain that it was
Really?
happening. Yeah. So but it was good, because I kind of got out of all those questions. I can't imagine what it was like for Michael and Stephen.
Now, you say Jesus doesn't know, but obviously you're Jesus. You know a lot of stuff. So we've got some...
Not actually Jesus.
We'll find out. But we've got some unanswered Walking Dead questions. I'd love to see if you can help us out. Sure. One of them is a big one. Do zombies poop?
I don't think so, because they don't. Or maybe they do, but maybe not out of where we do. Maybe it falls out somewhere else. Wow,
Exclusive.
That's disgusting for this time of day.
Exclusive right here. Another one is fans have been kind of speculating that Daryl, I don't know if you've heard this, I know you're active on social media, but Daryl was kind of giving Morse code to Rick Grimes. And have you heard about this? And what are your thoughts on this?
It's amazing. It's another aspect of the show, because there are definitely things that the creators put in there, little Easter eggs and stuff, and it encourages the audience to look for stuff as well. I think Scott Gimple spoke about that the other day, and he was saying, "I'd love to live in a world where Daryl has learnt Morse code and sat and watched that thing, and maybe he has. Who knows?" And it's nice to keep up those mysteries in the show. But I think that's kind of an inspired one.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what's been maybe the craziest thing, since you're active on social media, that you've seen fans speculate about or guess at?
The craziest thing. Honestly, people have speculated about everything. This episode, they were speculating about Jesus and Sasha being a thing. And at one point, it was Maggie and Sasha being a thing. And then it's been Daryl and Jesus being a thing. It's everyone is desperate to match Jesus up with someone.
Shippers, man.
Which is but that's a whole new thing for me as well. I didn't realize that. The show, outside of the show, the fan base is so strong. It goes in so many different directions, and you just can't really prepare for it or know what to expect. And it really is its own unique thing. So whenever, when you first join the show, a lot of the other actors on the show rather ominously say to you, welcome to The Walking Dead. And you're like, oh, thanks, great, it's a great job. I'm really happy to be here. But then you realize that it's so much more than just being on a TV show. There's so much more to it outside of just doing the job, which at the end of the day, it's a job. You know, we turn up and do our job and go home. But outside of just doing our job, there's so much more that comes with it, which is so great and enjoyable to engage with.
You said fans are speculating about like Sasha and Jesus, but in the comic, Jesus is actually a gay character. We haven't really seen that in the show, but thoughts on if that storyline would come up and if that's something we could possibly see?
I think that would be amazing. I know that Kirkman has said, about the comic books that, I mean, yeah, who cares? He's a badass and he happens to be gay. I think that's one of the strongest things about Robert and how he writes the comic books is that there are no, why wouldn't he be? And I see no reason why that would be different in the show.
Now, one thing where the comics is varying a little bit, we see Carl show up in the back of the Savior truck with Jesus. Yeah. What was filming that like?
It's really fun, and I like how it ended up at the end. And I enjoy how people have reacted to that because Jesus is like, he gets in the back of the truck and he sees him and he's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Let's go see what we're gonna do. And not as just like, oh, what's this kid doing here, or oh, whatever. Like, he's very much everyone's on their own path and does what they have to do. And cool, okay, let's see what happens next. And yeah, that was a nice ending to that episode, I thought.
Now, it has caused a lot of speculation, though, because Chandler Riggs is starting college and his 7-year contract is up. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've just been catching up on that, actually. And honestly, it just made me think about it. And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah. But I think, I mean, I can't comment on Chandler and what he's going to do. But yeah, I think Carl is the future of the show. Is the future of the comic books. I think at the end of the day, I think Carl is the guy at the end on the last page. And I don't know if they'll go that way on the TV show, but I think it would be a logical place for them to go. So who knows?
So Jesus and Carl in the truck, what do you think we can expect in future episodes?
I think you can expect to see how they approach the situation, and they might not approach it in the same way.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, there's another big theory out there. I'd love to get your take on. People out there say Walking Dead is a sequel to Breaking Bad. Have you heard about this?
I heard that one as well. I actually, to my shame, have not watched Breaking Bad, so I can't comment on that. But I have heard that. What is it? It's Walter White started the apocalypse?
Yeah. They say a strain from his meth.
Yeah. I read another thing about Breaking Bad.
What do you guys think? I'm into it.
There was another theory about Breaking Bad, which is that if it took place in England or Canada, the storyline would never have happened because of universal healthcare, which I thought was kind of a funny thing as well. It's like that whole storyline wouldn't have happened.
What's been your favorite experience since being on this show? Because it does have a crazy fan base.
Craziest experience is, the whole not knowing if people are referring to me as Jesus from the Bible or Jesus from The Walking Dead when they meet me nowadays. But I think one of the best things about this job is what I was talking about before, is the outside experience of it, which is meeting the fans and being able to give smiles to people. It's just so awesome, like to make someone's day just by saying hi and or giving them a hug or shaking their hand or signing an autograph, or And I've seen like people who have learning disabilities or don't have the best start in life, and just to be able to inspire and lift people up just by virtue of saying hi and just having a conversation with someone it's an aspect of the job which I didn't really expect to happen to me, and to be on this show which has such a special family atmosphere and be able to share that with people. And it really is like, we're not like, everyone on the show is the same. We're not like these TV stars who are off on this pedestal. Like, everyone is so approachable and nice and willing to talk, and it's one of the best aspects of the show, I think. The Walking Dead family is like a real thing.
What's
really
something behind the scenes that fans might not know about, like even interacting with the zombies?
One of the hardest things interacting with the zombies is killing the zombies, because you have a fake knife, pretty much. You have a knife without a blade, and it has like fluorescent tape on the end for the special effects guys to help out. And it's a strange thing because you have to land it in the right spot, and like it has to stick, so it has to like not slide or anything, and then it has to come back out again, so that it's like a very obvious thing. All the while, you don't want to hurt the person because it's a real person that you're doing it to, and I don't want to like jab him in the head too hard, and it's actually really stressful. So you're like fighting, you're in this big action sequence, and then you have to have this crazy precision. And some people are actually really good at it, like straight off. It definitely took me a bit more practice to work out how to do that, and to make it look really good, and at the same time make it work for the special effects guys. There's a shot in that whole sequence where I do this big swipe, and the special effects guys made it like a slice through the zombie's face because it didn't quite work as what it was meant to be. So they save you sometimes in the show as well with what they do with your screw-ups. but it looked cool. So.
Have you been surprised about anything then that's shown up on the show that maybe didn't necessarily happen while you were filming it?
I don't think so. It's always an odd thing because there will be stuff that isn't used sometimes as well for various reasons. Like at the beginning of this episode, there was like a slight montage at the beginning of me bringing extra stuff in to Maggie while she was sleeping and coming in and out. But then when you put everything together in the edit, you realize that the narrative doesn't need those things. It can be strong enough with the dialogue. So in that first scene that you see me in when I bring the flowers and Sasha says he brought the other ones too, and so you don't necessarily need that montage of scenes. And at the beginning of the episode, it is more about Maggie and the focus on her, which is what we started on. So sometimes you're like, oh, we shot this stuff and it's not in there, but then you understand that it's about the greater narrative and not you being on screen.
Now, what about, like, we've seen a lot of solo character episodes. We just saw one with Tara. Background of Jesus is a little unknown in the comics, but could we be seeing maybe Jesus solo episodes?
That would be really cool.
Need Jesus in our lives.
Yeah, I'd love to do. I mean, obviously everyone would like their own bottle episode,
Right.
But at the same time, I think that would be really interesting. I think in the comics, it works for him to not. To be a little bit more woolly, and it means that you can still bring that character forward, so they could still reveal more stuff about his past in the comic books. There are other characters in the show which have definitely been fleshed out more from the comic books, and you've found out a bit more about them. And Jesus there's not much that you know about him right now, but he definitely approaches the world in a different way to a lot of the other characters, and he's not quite as damaged by the world. But then that might be because he's just approached it in a slightly different way, which we hopefully will develop in the future.
Now, we don't know a lot about Jesus' backstory, but do you, as an actor, know more about this character? Yeah,
Scott and I spoke about it last year, and it can also be changing a little bit, but we definitely have some solid ideas about his background and how he became the character that he is in the show today, yeah.
Hair and the beard man, are you going to keep it?
Yeah. I think this is, for as long as they'll have me, I think this is, because honestly, I don't want to wear extensions again, and I don't want to wear a fake beard again, because it's a complete nightmare. So I just grew it all out, and I actually, when I went back on the show this year, my beard was like 2 or 3 times the length it is now, because I was so desperate. I'm like, and then we cut it like way back, which was nice actually, because it's a bit of a pain when it's too long.
So we've seen the show kind of since the first episode this season take a really dark tone.
Yeah.
How does it go on from here?
Well, I obviously can't tell you too much. But, they're introducing the new communities into the show, and that must be for, some kind of narrative payoff at some point, you would think. What I think is interesting about the show, and especially at this point right now, is that everyone is taking a different kind of reaction to what's happened. So you saw last night, and Rosita is just wants to know because she wants to get out there and do what she can. And in our episode, you saw Sasha sharpening her knife and wanting me to go on a mission. And so there's lots of different approaches. And is the group going to stick together? Are some people going to go off on their own? Who knows? And what effects will that have in the future? Yeah.
I mean, what do you think fans can expect the rest of the season? We have mid-season finale coming up soon.
Yeah.
Big moments.
I can't tell you anything. I'm literally I'm so used to dancing circles now. I'm like, What can I say? What can't I say? I mean, you can expect the story to go on a bit. And, things will tie themselves together and other things will happen. I mean, right now, Jesus and Carl are on their way to the sanctuary. Like, how will that end up? What will go on with that? I'm interested to see how that goes down as well, actually.
Oh, very, very cool. And now, what about some other things for you coming up? What are you planning on doing?
Resting.
Oh, yeah?
we just had a nice Thanksgiving, and now it's Christmas, and then my family are coming over for Christmas in LA, which is going to be really nice. And I think just seeing how this season goes down, and like I said, I don't think if I did something else, then I'd have to do something like braid my hair or like to try and make myself look really different. And like I said, I'm happy being Jesus right now, to be honest.
Now, I think we have some fan questions out in the audience. Is this one right here?
Hi.
Hi.
So about 2 episodes ago, we got to see you team up with Sasha.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if Jesus could team up with anybody else and go out on a mission, who would he team up with?
Well, I don't know, because Jesus, he likes working with people, but he's kind of a bit of a loner. So I don't think he ever really thinks about it. Like, he wouldn't be like, oh, I'd like to go on a mission with that person. I don't think him and Daryl would work too well together at this point, at this moment in the storyline. I'm not sure that would work out. I actually think, like, right now, I think he realized in the back of the truck, he's like, oh, this could be interesting, like, me and Carl, because Carl has that. I think Jesus is quite open to situations, and Carl is as well. He has that, like, youthful, well, I'm going to go and do this, and let's see what happens. And Jesus is kind of the same. He's like, hey, we're just, like, boys' adventure. Let's go see what happens. So I think that team-up is actually quite a good one.
Thank you.
Another one right here.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. I love your top. That's really cool.
Oh, thank you. So you're part of such an incredible fandom, and my question for you is, if you could be part of another fandom, or maybe actually realistically start working with another big show like this, which one would it be and why?
I'm not sure. I haven't really thought about it. What's fun is that we end up seeing each other, all these other different fandoms at the conventions and stuff, and so, like, I'm friends with Karen Gillan from Doctor Who, and then, like, we know the Vampire Diaries guys we see, and, like, it's really interesting seeing all these different crossovers at the conventions. I really enjoy our fandom. I'm not really sure. I haven't really thought about it. But I do love it when there's crossovers. So, like, obviously we have a huge crossover now from Supernatural with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and I saw Cudlitz posted a picture of himself in the can't remember the family name, in their car in the show, which I thought was really fun. I don't know. I kind of foresee us as one big fandom, really, because there is a lot of crossover. I have to think about that. Maybe I'll put it on Twitter later.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, I'm Will.
I was wondering, how often do the scripts get released? Like, do you get all of the episodes, like, at the beginning of the season, or are you reading as you shoot?
No, we're reading as we shoot, because they want to get them obviously on point, and they sketch out a certain amount, and then they kind of see how it's going and how the actors are interpreting it and which way. Like, I know that Scott has, like, a view for the whole season because you have to, but then within that it changes. But generally, we get them like an episode earlier, which is good because otherwise you can't concentrate on the one that you're doing. Even getting them earlier than the day before we start is a lot, because you're trying to concentrate on what you're shooting at that moment, but then you'll get another script and you'll be like, oh, I'm doing that cool thing then, but okay, I've got to concentrate on this right now. So it can be a little bit confusing. So, but yeah, we get them pretty close to shooting.
All right, guys. And I guess we got some big moments coming up. We haven't heard too many spoilers, but they're coming. Walking Dead, Sundays on AMC. Check it out. Thanks to Tom.
Thank you very much, guys.